And we should be rock and roll. Hello there, my name is Jay. I'm one of the expert IELTS teachers here at E2 Language. Now, if you're doing IELTS speaking, the second part of IELTS speaking is a bit tricky. It's particularly tricky because, well, you have to speak for 2 whole minutes and you have 1 minute to prepare to do that. So speaking for 2 minutes is tough on a sort of mundane, boring topic. So you need to learn how to use that 1 minute preparation time effectively. If you do use that time effectively, and if you do have a good strategy, you can not only speak for 2 minutes, but you can speak in such a way that you use a variety of verb tenses and vocabulary and grammar that will satisfy the IELTS examiner. As long as your pronunciation and oral fluency are clear, then you can definitely get a high score. So in this class, we're going to look at IELTS Speaking Part 2, and I'm going to teach you how to prepare for the topic. I'm going to teach you how to prepare for your 2-minute monologue, okay? So what happens is on test day, first of all, you meet the examiner, you sit down, he or she asks for your passport and some details, and then you have part 1, which is just small talk. The examiner will ask you some questions about where you're from and what you do, and it's very straightforward. Part 2, this is what will happen. The IELTS examiner will give you a task card, which looks like this, by the way, and you'll have 1 minute to prepare and 2 minutes to speak. That 1 minute preparation time is absolutely critical in order to speak for 2 minutes well. Okay, so this is the task card. Now, imagine that this was what was given to you on test day. It says, talk about an occasion when you helped someone. You should say who you helped, why you helped him or her, who was with you, and explain whether the person appreciated it or not. Whoa, all right, so you sit there, you've got 1 minute to prepare and you think to yourself, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? Oh, I've got that story. I did help somebody once. And before you know it, the 1 minute's up and the IELTS examiner says, okay, you can start now. And you think, whoa, okay, and what are you going to do? I'm going to teach you a really cool, effective 3-part strategy. And we're going to learn how to prepare. So I want you on test day to tell 3 stories, not 1. You're going to tell 3 stories of 3 different occasions when you help somebody. And it's called PPF. And the reason is you're going to tell a story about when you help someone in the past, when you help somebody recently in the present, and when you will help somebody in the future. Okay? So it's a past, present, future. Past story on this topic, a present story on this topic, and a future story on this topic. But it says someone, as in one person, you helped, as in past tense. So can you actually use this strategy? Well, the answer is yes, you can use this strategy. All right, so I don't want to get too technical with you, but the IELTS speaking has what's called criteria. So if I'm an IELTS speaking examiner, I'm marking you on 4 things, okay, 4 things. I'm going to show you what those 4 things are. Now, I've spoken to IELTS examiners and I've asked them, is it okay to tell 3 stories, not 1? And they say, absolutely fine, because there's no criteria that says you must speak on topic. Okay, you have to speak about helping somebody, but if you tell 3 stories, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so let me show you that in detail because I want you to believe me because this actually works. So if we look here, first of all, if you get time, you can pause this video and you can read this. This is from an IELTS examiner. This is what the IELTS examiner wrote to me. So it's true. Now, and also, if you see up here, these are the criteria: fluency and coherence, which means structure; lexical resource, which means vocabulary; grammar and pronunciation. These are the criteria on which you're marked. There's nothing about speaking on the task, okay? So you need to trust me on this one. This works. But I don't have 3 stories about helping people. Well, you can make up the 3 stories based loosely on past experiences. Here's another little critical thing about IELTS speaking. You don't have to tell the truth. This is a language exam. You can talk about a story that happened to your brother or something you saw on TV, and you can pretend that you did it. It doesn't really matter. You're not there to tell the truth. You're there just to use your language. And telling stories, well, stories aren't often true, are they? They're often fictional or made up. And that's fine. Don't feel guilty about telling lies in this exam, because you're not telling lies, you're telling stories. It's a different thing altogether. So yes, you need to make up the 3 stories if you don't have 3, and you can base them loosely on past experiences. I'll show you how to do that in Excel. In fact, let me show you now. Here's an example. Sorry about that noise. So this task card says, again, talk about an occasion when you helped someone. You should say who you helped, why you helped him or her, who was with you, and explain whether the person appreciated or not. Okay, so let's say the time now is ticking down, 59, 58. So what I need to do now is I need to think, okay, past, a story when I helped somebody in the past. Okay, yes, I remember when I was a kid. Yes, I helped that old woman carry her shopping. Yes, got one. Oops, why did that stop? Come back. Anyway, there we go, it's still ticking. Present story, what am I doing recently? Who have I helped recently? Oh, I helped a guy this morning who dropped his wallet. That's right. Okay, fine. Future story. Who do I want to help in the future? Well, maybe I could, if I gave money to a charity, I could help somebody, blah, blah, blah. Look at that. In 30 seconds, I've come up with my 3 stories. So here are my stories here. In the past, I helped an old woman carry her shopping. In the present, well, recently, this morning, I helped a man who dropped his wallet. In the future, I would like to help people through a charity in which I give money. And all I do is I hold this task card in my hand and I glance down at it as I'm speaking. You don't even have to look at the examiner, to be honest. It's not about body language. I can just look at this task card and go, okay, so let's go through it. So in the past, I would like to tell you 3 stories. In the past, I helped an old woman carry her shopping. She was walking home and I could see that she needed help with the shopping because it was heavy. At the time, I was staying with my grandmother and I was just a young boy. I was only about 12 years old, blah, blah, blah. Why did I help him or her? I helped her because the shopping was really heavy and I could see that she was struggling. And because I was young and fit, I could definitely help her carry that shopping, blah, 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 blah. Who was with you? Interestingly, I had 2 friends with me at the time, but they didn't want to help because they were busy skateboarding, blah, 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 blah. Explain whether the person appreciated or not. She appreciated it enormously. In fact, she gave me $10 for helping her carry home the shopping, blah, 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 blah. Present story, do the same thing about the man who dropped his wallet. I start here again, and I go through here and here. Let's do some practice. I can see that you want to do this. So, practice 1. I'm going to give you a task card, just like in the IELTS exam. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I want you to read that task card and think of 3 stories. If you have a pen and paper, please write down your 3 stories, okay? Let's do this. After that, I want you to do the speaking for 2 minutes on the topic and tell the 3 stories, past, present, future story. The past story will use past tense verbs. In the past, I helped a woman carry her shopping. She was blah, 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 blah. Present story, see if you can use present continuous or present perfect continuous. Recently, I have been helping people by giving money to a charity. The people receive the money every week. Present verbs. And see if you can also, whoops, sorry, just let me check something. I've just been logged out of my webinar, have I? All good, all good, all good. Hello, people on YouTube, by the way. If you're enjoying this, please click like and leave a comment. I'll get to your questions in a second. I think it's all good. And a future story. You need to tell a future story if you have time. If you have time, you can say, in the future, I would like to, and you will use lots of modal verbs, etc. Okay? So let's practice. Let's prepare. Ready? Okay, you should now have 3 stories about a city. I know it says a city you recently visited in the past, but again, it doesn't matter. You can discuss 3 stories, 1 past, 1 present, 1 future, okay? So let me show you mine, and then we're gonna actually practice this. So for me, I'm going to talk about these 3 cities. I'm going to talk about how in the past I visited a city called Mysore in India. Recently, I visited Mexico City, okay? Now, present tense verbs, or I can even say recently, or at the moment, I live in Melbourne, for example. So I can make that present tense verbs if you can. In the future, I would like to visit New York. Okay, they're my 3 cities. So you should have 3 cities too. Now, just before we practice it, I want to teach you an introductory sentence that you can use on test day. Today, I would like to talk about 3 different cities. Today, I would like to talk about 3 different inventions, sports, rules, plans, whatever that topic is. You can memorize this sentence. And so you don't have to be nervous. You can look at the examiner. After you've made your plan of the 3 things you'll talk about, you look the examiner in the eye and you say, today, I would like to talk about 3 different cities. Okay, here we go. 2 minutes to talk about your 3 cities. Starting now. Okay, so that's 2 minutes, and you can see or feel or experience 2 minutes is a long time to talk about 1 story. Tough, really tough, right? Did you experience that? Just type into the comments, if you will, what you thought while you were doing that. Was that easy, or Narinda has a good question. Narinda asks, can we tell 2 stories about the past? Certainly, yes. But the problem is you'll just be using past tense verbs. I want you to use present tense verbs as well and future tense verbs, because then your grammar and your vocabulary go up. That's why we do this. Somebody said in YouTube, are you sure we can do this? It only says recently visited. Yes, you can. Trust me on this. You need to trust me. It's fine. You can do the research yourself if you want. You can absolutely use that. Okay, so Vasid says, if I tell 1 story, it goes for 30 seconds. Right, and you need to go for 2 minutes. That's why this is tough. What a lot of people do in IELTS speaking, this is a huge mistake, and examiners see this every day. They tell 1 story for 30 seconds, and then they tell the same story again, and then again, and again until they run out. And they just keep going around in circles saying the same thing, because it's really hard to talk for 2 minutes on that 1 topic. Here's a question. 3 stories is a lot to say in 2 minutes. Good. Well, let's just keep practicing it, okay? Let's do another one. Let's do another one. Practice 2. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to give you another prompt. I want you to prepare for 1 minute by thinking about 3 different stories. But yes, yes, yes. Let's prepare. Ready? Okay. Cool. How did you go preparing for that topic about an invention? Again, talk about an invention in the past that you can. Let me just show you mine. Let me show you mine. This is what came to my mind. So I thought, okay, an important invention, well, telephones. And I'll talk about, well, what the invention is. It's a telephone. It's for talking to people across the world, and it's connected by wires and blah, 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 blah. Who invented it? Alexander Bell invented it. And again, do I know who invented the telephone and in what year and where? Not really. I'm just going to lie. I'm just going to say it was invented by Alexander Bell in 1763 in London, England. Is that true? No, it's beside the point. You don't lose marks for being inaccurate in terms of the content, okay? They're worried about your language. The examiner's listening to your language, so I'm just going to make it up. For my recent story, at the moment, I have been using Facebook. Facebook is the best invention of the 21st century. It was invented by Mark Zuckerberg. It was blah, 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 blah. In the future, I think an important invention that will happen will be the creation of robots, especially robots that help us clean the house. Okay, just before you start, I've just realized that there are 2 ways. You can say recently, or you can say, at the moment. At the moment, blah, 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 blah. Okay, at the moment. So there's 2 ways to do the present story. 2 minutes to speak. Your time starts now. All right, good. How did you go then? Please, just for my interest, give yourself a score out of 9. Are you an IELTS 1, 2, 3, 4? Just type into the chat what you believe you should have scored there. So Vashid said 7. Who else? 8. Hina's given an 8. That's good. Nice. Z says 7. Sad face. All right, people are giving themselves 7, 7.5. Fine. That's good. That's good. That's good. Now, a few good questions came through then on YouTube. Sarab said, what if we have to talk about our family? How do we make a past, present, and future story about our family? I agree. Look, I'll be perfectly honest with you. This technique will work for about 95% of tasks. But sometimes you will get a task card that says, talk about your family. And then it's like, okay. But just remember that you can apply this strategy even to your family. For example, you can talk about your grandmother in the past or something like that. You talk about your sister's baby in the present, and you can talk about in the future how you would like to have a big family or whatever it is. Remember, you can take that task and you can manipulate it to suit you, okay? Remember, you're just being marked on those 4 things: pronunciation, structure, I'm trying to think of them actually, vocabulary and grammar, okay? You're not being marked on whether you speak on task. It's different to the essay. With the essay and academic writing task 1 and general writing task 1, you must absolutely talk about the topic. But this, no, it's different. Cool. Somebody's also asked if I can do one, so maybe I'll do one at the end, okay? But I just want you to practice for the time being, preparing and speaking. Let's do another one. Here we go. Prepare. You have 1 minute to prepare. Okay, just quickly, here are my notes that I took. So in the past, I played cricket. Recently, I have been rock climbing. And in the future, I will play tennis. They are my 3 stories. So here we go. You have 2 minutes now to speak about your 3 stories. How did you go that time? Give yourself a score out of 9. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do one. I haven't practiced this before, so I'm doing it for the first time. And you'll hear that even though I'm a native speaker and an English teacher, I might probably stumble and restart sentences. You don't have to be perfect, okay? You don't have to be perfect. The other thing is I might get a little bit nervous in doing this, okay? So that's completely natural as well. It's an extremely difficult task. There's a lot of pressure on you. You just have to be strong and focus on what you're saying. So let me do this again. I'm going to speak now for 2 minutes and you'll hear me do this. So let me start the timer. Today, I would like to talk about 3 different stories about my favorite sport. I'm going to tell you a past story. I'm going to talk about the sport that I'm currently playing at the moment. And I'll also talk about a sport that I would like to play in the future. So let's have a look at this. So the sport that I used to play in the past was cricket. I played in the under-15s tournament at my local school. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't very good at it. There are really complicated rules with cricket. You need 11 players on the field. It has all this crazy terminology about ducks and byes and LBW and whatnot. Cricket's usually played in summer, but we also played it in winter and we would play indoors, which in fact, I preferred playing indoors because we got to use a tennis ball instead of a cricket ball. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but cricket balls are extremely hard and dangerous. But anyway, I liked cricket. I particularly liked bowling. More recently, I've been rock climbing, which I'm not exactly sure if it's a sport or not, but that's been extremely interesting. Basically, what you have to do is just climb up a wall using your own strength. There aren't really any rules with rock climbing. The only really rule there is to make sure you don't fall and be safe. And you often do it with a partner because they look after you. And you can rock climb any time of the year, whether it be winter or summer, because you do it indoors. I really like it because it's dangerous and it gives me a great thrill. In the future, I would like to play tennis. I really like tennis, but I haven't played it much. Usually you can play with one other person or 2 other people. And although it's usually a summer sport, you can play it at other times. I like tennis because it seems to be very elegant. I'll be perfectly honest with you, my heart's beating a little bit fast because all you guys are watching me. But there you go. I just told 3 stories and I had no trouble speaking for 2 minutes. I had heaps to say, okay? I told the past story about cricket, present story about rock climbing, future story about tennis. I used a range of vocabulary because I had to, because in the past I used past tense verbs. Present, I have been rock climbing, for example. And in the future, I used a lot of modal verbs like would like to, might, should, for example. I think I used some modal verbs like that. So anyway, good. There you go. That's an example. Let's do another one. Here we go. 1 minute to prepare. Okay, let's look at what I did to prepare. So a past rule, talk about a school rule. This is a hard one. This is difficult. What the rule is, why it exists, what happens when it is broken, and explain whether it is effective. So in the past, so I'm going to talk about, I would say, when I was in primary school, we had a rule that was could not speak in class. You weren't allowed to talk. Only the teacher is allowed to talk. This rule exists because the idea is to keep the class quiet so you can hear the teacher, blah, 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 past tense. Recently, I think texting has become a big problem. Somebody asked me before what sort of verbs you can use here. So you're going to use present perfect, like has become. School students have been texting. So you're going to use present perfect continuous, etc. So there's different verbs here. I've done another lesson. If you're interested, I've done a few more lessons on this. So if you want to watch them, you can click here or search wherever it is to look at all the different verb tenses you use. Okay. Now, again, this is a tough one. In the future, one of the rules might be that you cannot use Google in exams. Maybe there will be technology where you can cheat in exams, so that will become a school rule. This is hard. Let's try to do this. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to speak now about this topic. 3 stories. Here we go. Okay, how did you go? Just type into the chat how you went with that one. What would you give yourself out of 9? What scores? Yeah, Vashid said very hard. I agree. Interesting. What score would you give yourself? 6.5. Oh, Hina did well. Well done. 8. Good. All right. All right. Good. All right. People are rating themselves very highly, so that's a good sign. It means that you're doing this well. Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. We're going to do one more. This is the final one. Okay. I really want you to. I want you to be confident with this one now. You've practiced this method enough. You know how to manipulate the task card to suit you. Now I want you to speak very clearly. Okay, so you have 1 minute to prepare. Okay, you have 2 minutes to speak now. Okay, that one's real. I got these task cards from students who have taken the IELTS and actually remembered what the task card was. So this you could see this in your exam. This is how difficult it can become. This is really hard. I want to talk to you about how I would prepare for this one. Okay, so talk about a plan that never happened. Should say what the plan was, why it didn't happen, who the plan involved, and explain whether it might happen again. So this is my plan. So in the past, when I was a kid, when I was young, I wanted to build a tree house. Okay, that was what the plan was, but it didn't happen because we didn't have any wood. Now, again, I'm going to lie. I'm going to tell a story. I'm not going to tell the truth because I don't really have a story here, and I'm not going to sit there silently because I want to get a high score and pass the IELTS and move on with my life. So I'm going to make this story up a little bit. So I'm going to tell one about building a tree house when I was a kid, a plan that never happened. More recently, or at the moment, I have been intending to visit my family. However, I've been working too much, and so it hasn't really happened. It's happened, again, because I've been working too much. It involves, well, just me and my colleagues at work are largely involved in this, blah, 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 blah. In the future, I would like to do a PhD, but it probably won't happen, okay? Again, I'm being creative with this task card. I'm thinking of things plans that I want to do, which probably won't happen, etc. This is tough. This is tough, but this is the level of difficulty that you might receive in your exam, so you need to be prepared. Okay, we did that. So why IELTS 9? Why IELTS 9? I want to talk to you again about the scoring. Again, there are 4 things that you're scored on. This is the official IELTS scorecard: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. In other words, fluency and structure, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation. And structure does not mean speaking on topic. Structure means that you say, today I would like to talk about this, blah, 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 blah. And you structure your story while going through those dot points, okay? Fluency means how easily the words come to you, how easily you can speak without hesitating and pausing and umming and ahhing, etc. Vocabulary means that you have the words to describe what you're trying to say. Grammar means that you use them accurately. And pronunciation means that the sounds you're making are clear. So these 4 things, or really 5, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things are what you're scored on to get your 7 or your 8 or maybe even your 9, okay? This is what you're scored on. Cool, guys, if you need any help with your IELTS, please just go to www.e2language.com. We have a full online course. We have methods for writing and speaking and reading, lots of practice. We have live classes. Sign up to the live classes below from the description below. Yeah, cool. Hope that was helpful. I think with IELTS speaking, it really is practice. You sort of think, oh, that's easy. Speak for 2 minutes. Try it on test day when you're under pressure. Whole new ball game. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll just answer a few questions in the webinar now. So if you guys have any questions. Okay, somebody says, I'm getting stuck talking about the future. When you talk about the future, you need to use modal verbs. So you need to use words like would, might, will. These sorts of words help you to talk about the future. For example, let's say it's a book that you will read in the future. Let's say the topic's about a book. You can say, a book that I would like to read in the future is called Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. I would like to read this because it's really interesting. Maybe next week I will find the time to read this book, whatever. I'm using will, would, might, for example. Yep, cool. Okay, here's another great question. Jay, what happens when you only have 15 seconds left for your future story? That's fine. That's fine. If you only have 15 seconds, you can just say, and lastly, I'll talk about a book that I would like to read in the future, which is Harry Potter. I would like to read this because many of my friends have read it and they told me it's fantastic. That's it. Just a little structure, a little story on the future. It doesn't matter. So the past story will go for should go for about 45 seconds. Present story go for about 45 seconds. That leaves you about 30 seconds for the future story. If you don't have time for the future story, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Past and present will be fine. Just remember with the present story, there are 2 ways to start. You can say the word recently, which will make you say present perfect verbs, or you can say at the moment, which will make you say present continuous verbs, okay? Okay, yeah, cool. Anyway, requires practice. If you need help, check out the website. See you guys later. Good luck, good luck, good luck.